So you heard from your colleague, Mr. Yarmouth, across the aisle.
Yep.
He said you got a problem with this budget because it's cutting too much out of social programs, which will actually undermine the security of the country. What do you say?
Well, I like Yarmouth. He's a good man, a good friend of mine, but he's wrong on economic security. When you have 0.7% economic growth last quarter, following 8 years of Democrat leadership, that's not economic security. The labor markets are a disaster. There's no growth. We have $20 trillion in debt we're passing on to the kids. We got $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities. Medicare and Social Security go insolvent in 2034. The kids won't see those programs. That's not economic security. The Democrats don't have a budget that balances in any time horizon, not even in 75 years out. We're trying to do 10 years, so that's an improvement. But what they call cuts, I mean, everything's still growing in D.C., right? All the cranes are still doing fine and dandy, building up here in D.C., and so the rest of the country needs security. D.C. is plenty secure. It's like Fort Knox up here. But the rest of the country needs some security. We're trying to get some economic growth for them.
Yeah, let me pick up on one thing you mentioned, which is Medicare and Social Security. A lot of people around the country think that people got to address that. Our president, Donald Trump, will not touch that. Is he wrong?
I think in the out years, to find the savings he wants to beef up the military and to do some of the other investments on infrastructure he wants, I think he's going to have to look at those programs, not cuts, but there's ways to reform those, right? When those programs started off, the average death age was 65, and they broke even actuarially. Now, the benefits kick in at 65, people live to 83, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out why they're insolvent. The Democrats won't even bring up the issues, much less a solution for them. And so they always say we need to do education better and these kind of things. They have no plan. They've had a monopoly on education for 40 years. They own higher ed, and they're teaching that business is bad. Supply side, tax cuts is used as a pejorative term. The supply side is you. The supply side is business. And they refer to that as something bad, morally bad. And so unless you change that attitude and get pro-business and pro-growth, I don't see any hope for the next generation of kids.
So, Representative, a lot of people agree that we've got to do something with the deficit. We just cannot keep going. Trees do not grow to the sky. Even deficit can't. Yeah. That's right. But is it right? Is it the right approach to balance or try to balance the budget on the back of the least advantaged? You're talking about something like $800 billion out of Medicaid, right? You're talking about like $200 billion out of food stamp. Is that the right place to find the money?
Yeah, no, I agree. I went to seminary before I did my PhD in economics. You got to take care of the least of these. The problem right now is we have able-bodied folks that are using those benefits that should go to the totally disabled, right? I got people coming with spine injuries, terrible diseases. I was just at the food festival this weekend back home with a nice kid that's got terrible disabilities. No one's talking about that. The Democrats on immigration, they want tons of people coming in because we have so many jobs right now that are open. We can't find anybody to work, except we have all sorts of able-bodied people on some of these programs. Well, that seems like a good fit to me. So let's solve it that way first before we add to the expense on our side. And I think that's a kind of an easy solution.
And Representative, let's talk about the Republicans before we get to the Democrats. Can you all get together? Because we've talked to some of your Republican colleagues who say, you know what, running up a bigger deficit might be worth it if we get the country growing again. How do you feel about that?
I'm open to a little of that thought. It depends.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, it depends what the tax cut structure looks like. When Reagan, and this isn't partisan, right, in the 20s, JFK, got 5% real economic growth. It takes a year or so, right? So you do the cut, and then in CBO land, in Washington land, when you do a tax cut and give people their money back, we count that a cost. It's a cost to the government. The person back home doesn't consider it a cost when you put money in their pocket, right? And especially we need to put money in the hands of businesses so they can put capital in the hands of people so they can have a bigger paycheck.